It's the 3 Series GT is the second GT that we do. We introduced the 5 GT a few years ago, and it's a car that has the same values. It basically is a car that offers more space, let's say, that you expected. And also, which is important, the silhouette, similar to the 5 GT, has a very coupe-like silhouette with a flowing roof. Maybe one more thing in terms of the dimensions, the car is about 200 millimeters, so about 20 centimeters longer than the 3 Series. The wheelbase is about 11 centimeters longer, and I think it's about 80 millimeters higher than the 3, and actually offers as much space as a 5 Series. How do we keep consistency at BMW? Well, the important thing is that every car we do, independent of what architecture, it is a BMW. So again, the values of dynamics, the values of elegance, the values of sportiness are, or status, depending on which level of car we're designing, is very important. So we always, if you will, during the design process, refer to those values. We kind of have gateways, if you will, and we look at it and say, okay, does it, do we have a checklist in a way, if you will, with those values? And say, okay, does it work with that? Does it work with that? And that way, hopefully, you then, because you have that goal in mind, then you can always reference to that. And that helps us keep a certain consistency. Well, I think if you ask a car designer, sketching is a reward in itself. You finish a sketch at the end of the day, and you've got this thing on your table that oozes out that spirit you want. I think it's one of the most rewarding things. Particularly when you start and you're a student coming from school, and that sketching has just been so important to you, and it keeps that importance, it stays there. But then you slowly discover that what we can afford, let's say in a company, is doing a one-to-one clay model of a car. That's
just another animal.
That's it. But yeah, but it's amazing. It's really, often at the end of the day, again, you're sitting in front of the model, and the modelers are maybe have gone home, and you see this thing that you've actually thought about live. It's amazing. It's fantastic.
It's cool.
I don't know if it's unbound from technology. I mean, we talk about emotion often. Emotion's a word that's been used and reused so many times, but it is very important, particularly for a brand like BMW. It's a guttural feeling, if you want this thing or don't want this thing. So it is nonetheless bound to technology, because what we do is we try and illustrate the inner values of a BMW, with the sporty driving, with the driving dynamics. And it is related to technology, but emotion you cannot sort of one-to-one relate to something in technology. You have to calculate risks.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a risk. I think it's something, it's an adventure. Because we design cars that are coming out on the road 3, 4, 5 years down the road, right? And we have to make sure that the values we are expressing now have their reason to be then 3 or 4 years later. And I don't really know how the economy is going to be in 4 years, or what's going to happen. I don't know, at the political level, or if there's going to be wars or whatever that sort of change the mindset. But we try and interpret certain trends and extrapolate how it develop, and that is a tricky exercise. I think the concept itself is not an easy concept, meaning elegance and coupe-like silhouette and function and utility and space. And one example, for example, of one example we did, which really illustrates that, and that was a challenge, and in the end I think we came up with a pretty good solution. The rear of the 3 Series GT, it's much lower than the 5 Series GT. Why? Because we now have a new technology for us. It's the active aerodynamics, so the wing in the back lifts up. So it allowed us to have a much lower rear. And so when you look at the rear from the rear, it's lower, it looks wider, it looks much sportier. But at the same time you have that silhouette and that height that allows you to have actually more space in the trunk than on the 3 Series Touring. So we were actually in this case able to do both.
Cool.
I think materials are very important. It's very important to us that every car that we build is always more dynamic, but at the same time always more in tune with its environment. So, you know, efficient dynamics is an important thing for us, a combination of both aspects. And that, in my opinion, means to do that, to bring that further, is you have to be authentic. And if for us being more aerodynamic, being more lightweight is so important, then the design has to express that. And that is what's coming for us in the next 10 years, more authenticity at the level of what BMW stands for. I think it's a big part of our future because it's a matter of choice. If you drive a BMW, chances are you chose to buy a BMW because you want to be able to drive it. You want to be able to enjoy it, and that is part of the spirit of BMW. But at the same time, there's times where you're maybe in traffic or wherever you may be, and you don't really want to drive. And technology now allows us to do it, to have self-driving cars. And especially for a car, premium product, a luxury product like BMW, you should be able to do that.